Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. My name is Kinanta. I'm from Blemba 72 PLN class. Today I would like to present about the impact of carbon pricing and border tax adjustment on domestic producer. Carbon pricing and border tax adjustment, or BTS, are climate policy instruments being widely implemented by major countries to drive industrial decarbonization. With these policies, could make things more expensive, but if business in the country can adapt, they could also lead to green transformation. Based on the World Bank 2023, pricing carbon is the most efficient way to reduce emission and drive innovation. So, what is carbon pricing? By charging for greenhouse gas (GHG) emission, carbon pricing makes carbon externalities part of the cost. There are two common plans are, the first is carbon tax. This is the red ton of CO2 emission. And the second is cap and trade. Carbon trading, this is the carbon trading emission system. So what is the impact on the domestic producer? First, uh, we know that the cost will be increased. But why? Because the higher cost for fossil fuel and logistics transportation. And the second, impact on innovation. The incentive for energy efficiency and clean technology is uh, we need the incentive for that. And the third is the competitive inequality. Why? Because domestic product may lose to cheaper imported product. So next, I would like to explain about the border tax adjustment. What is the purpose and the mechanism? BTA designed for the prevent carbon leakage, and the second to protect domestic industry competitiveness, and the third is the balance global climate policy differences. So how to mechanism the border tax adjustment? First, we can add the carbon tax on import from countries without carbon pricing. And the second, we can provide the compensation for export from countries implementing the carbon tax. So what the impact if we implemented the border tax adjustment? First, we can get the industry protection. Why? Because the domestic industry protect from cheap but high emission import. And the second, we can get the administrative burden. It's mean the require complex product carbon tracking system. And the third, it will become the attractive diplomacy, can make it global trade extension. And next, based on our analysis, there are some affected sector. If we implemented this, the first sector in Indonesia will affected is the cement. Why? Because the carbon emission is high and vulnerability is very high. So what is the adaptive action? Maybe we need to find the raw material substitution, or we can implement the CCS or carbon capture storage. And the second sector is steel. The carbon emission is high and vulnerability is high. So the adaptive action is using electrification or electric arc furnace. And the third sector is pulp and paper. The carbon emission is medium. Vulnerability is medium. So the adaptive action is we can use the biomass or energy efficiency in the pulp and paper sector. And the fourth is textile. The carbon emission is low. Vulnerability is low. What we should do is the adaptive action is the green certification. And the last the sector is the power plant because the carbon emission is very high and vulnerability is high. So what we should do is we can implement that co-firing, CCS, and also domestic emission trading system. Domestic emission trading system in Indonesia is already launched. So what is the adaptation strategy for domestic producer? The first what we should do is integrated carbon audit. With this action, we can detecting highest emission point in the production chain. And the second, we can do the check the low emission technology adaptation. Yeah, we can adapt it, the technology such as a heat recovery system, electrification, and renewable energy. And third, we can make some product emission certification. Example, the factory can use the ISO 14067 carbon footprint of product, and also we can implement the APD, Environmental Product Declaration. Fourth, we can make the strategic alliance and green financing, such as the research collaboration, partnership with the government or NGO, and also uh, we can get the access to green financing. And the last is what we should do is digitalization and real-time emission monitoring. Yeah, for the example, we can implement it of AI or IoT for automated carbon reporting. So, what's the point of Indonesian and global context? In global, such as in European Union, they are already implementing carbon border adjustment mechanism or CBAM for cement products, steel, aluminum, fertilizer, and electricity. And and also in Canada and US, they are already implemented in public consultation phase for similar mechanism. And what already do in Indonesia? Indonesia actually already starting with the carbon trading for coal power plant through presidential regulation number 68 in year 2021. And the next, Indonesia plans to develop Indonesian carbon exchange, but already launched. Uh, we already know. Maybe in the last year, the IDX carbon already launched. So what the risk for Indonesia? The export product like steel and cement could face EU CBAM tariff without credible carbon accounting system. This is the risk for Indonesian. So from the case study, we can get some conclusion and recommendation. So the conclusion is the carbon pricing and BTA will still be important policy around the world. If domestic producers in Indonesia do not change, they won't be able to compete and won't be able to sell their goods internationally. So what is the recommendation? First, the government needs to provide regulatory framework and transition incentive. And the second, the industry must prepare through emission measurement, technology adoption, and supply chain transparency. And the last, we need the technical capacity for carbon reporting to prepare for CBAM and similar mechanism. Based on the McKinsey sustainability report, those who move early on carbon transparency and efficiency will define the next era of global trade. This is the our chance for the government of Indonesia and also the industry in Indonesia. I think that's all presentation from me. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.